Well, welcome everybody to a short podcast or tech talk on different areas that NM Group work in. Today, and for our very first tech talk, I wanted to discuss with Shane Brunker, our CTO, about the use of making data actionable in utility vegetation management or UVM. And specifically, look at the options for utilities who want to design vegetation management programs more effectively and understand what they need to do to leverage those efficiencies. So Shane, tell me, why is building programs so important?
It's not just about building programs. It is about the fact that you have a multitude of sources of data that are appearing: satellite, weather, maintenance records, condition information, remote sensing derived observations from LiDAR, from scanners, from photography, drones, etc. And all of those sources can be used to generate more information. So we can use those sources to generate information about assets, environment, condition, context. We can use it to generate patterns and create insights into what's happening out there. But the practical owner of an asset or owner of a function says, yeah, that's nice. I can see all this information and I can see it as a pattern and insight, but what do I do with it? How do I use that in my business to justify a budget, put people and contractors to work? So that's what this is really about. When we talk about program building, it's saying, I've learned a whole bunch of stuff about my network. Now I'm going to use different science, sort of data science style techniques to convert information that I know about it that's new into work we're going to do. And that can be what work needs doing, what options do I have, which is the most efficient one. How can I look at different scenarios and maybe balance risk against cost? How can I look at compliance against cost, against risk? And in maybe a practical vegetation case is saying, well, okay, I now understand the proximity rates of growth and the risk of an outage on different parts of my network. What does it look like if I do a 18-month cycle for retrim and regrowth versus a 2.5-year cycle or a 3-year cycle or a 1-year cycle? What's more expensive? What's cheaper? And being able to put together those scenarios, optimize your decision, and then actually convert that into something that can be contracted or can be issued to staff. And that's that gap between analytics and action and operationalizing information.
That's really interesting and covers a lot of detail there. But let me ask you this: how can this be done by utility? What are the blockers and enablers today to actually doing what you've described?
That's a really great question, Tim. Utilities can easily acquire data and insights now. There's a lot of tools out there that will tell them things. And a BI dashboard will give you pretty graphs. It will give you, trends and patterns and all those sorts of things. Historically, you almost need a data scientist on staff to be able to say, okay, let's look at veg. We've got a whole bunch of trees. We understand the growth rate. We understand which ones can fall. We can understand the trend, how long till some can fall. What's the probability that some might fail? What's the exposure to storms, to wind, all these sorts of things. And you've historically needed to be a data scientist to ingest that, build models off it, test those models, and use that model to design sort of a set of work actions. But what we've done is try and distill that in a standardized way for the layman, in a sense that we've got a utility expert who's a lay data scientist in this sense. So they understand their network really well, they understand their domain, but they don't necessarily need or want to dive into how would you build a predictive model or an optimization program builder. So we've actually constructed a number of tools using some of the Esri technology, using some of our own technology, using the data models that we've developed that relate all the different components that sit on an easement or right of way or a corridor, so that you can pick and choose. Well, hey, what about let's prioritize a certain voltage, a certain clearance against a certain type of customer, or what about let's prioritize a cost against against a certain level of risk. So what about a certain level of trim back versus a certain level of cost to achieve that? And actually being able to just click buttons, see on the map, see on the graph, look at the cost, and understand the implication of decisions, because you can now make that decision because you have the information to inform it. Okay, you've got the good data. We can provide some tools that sit on top of that data that let you actually interrogate it and understand what your options are. And then when you're done and you decide, hit go, let's do the work and actually translate that to a work program, which is the missing link. That's what's always needed to be there all the way through.
Well, thank you, Shane. That was great to get some more information in detail on program optimization. I hope you found that useful, and do keep an eye out for Tech Talk number 2 coming soon.